Alrighty, daily trading recap for this Wednesday, the 27th of October, 2021. A little bit of a hard day on the PNL. Just one really trade intraday on KAVL. We were looking for that dip and rip. Pretty big size that I was swinging there, and it was just under a 9% loss that I took on that one. We'll get into the breakdown in a little bit, but overall, still giving myself a mental rating of an A on the day for through that loss, still keeping the mentality of the grind and the work ethic and continuing to put the time in and not get just so dismayed and it's destroyed for the rest of the day that I can't even function. When normally in the past I totally would have, that everything would have shut down. I just would have not looked at anything else for the rest of the day, that I would have to like soak up this loss and just feel that more in the past. Whereas now today I was able to take that and seeing that P&L loss initially after I got stopped out, going, okay, wow, yeah, that sucks. But then quickly being able to move on from that and understand that I was willing to take that risk. I was fully aware of what it could have potentially done, but we'll get further into the nitty gritty on that one in that intraday trade breakdown in a little bit. I was coming into today looking for a lot of third day plays. Zila especially was potential another one like GNUS. I was very confident in GNUS, which is what I'll show here in a little bit again. FAMI I was also interested in for the former runnerness of it, the sketchiness of it. The after hours from yesterday and pre-market today kind of showed a little bit more potential than it really showed in the market hours today, so I had to lay off of any move on that one. Daily looked kind of decent for the volume it was putting in and the potential levels we were coming back to around that $0.50 level at 50. That could have produced some interesting little fluctuations there, but nothing came of it today. Let's get into GNUS for the specific trades on the day. Swung 50 shares of this overnight. I was really tempted to swing a lot more because of just the, again, former runnerness of this thing for how crazy it moved. This was back middle of 2020. Absolutely ludicrous multi-day run to the upside. I forget the float on this one specifically, if it's a crazy low float. I think it's actually a high float. Just checking quick again. Yeah, 279 million floater. So not like a crazy low floater, but certainly potentially manipulated in that sense. It was just looking too strong for me to not take at least a few shares overnight, because I thought we were going to get something like, I believe it was PROG in the last few days and PBTS a little bit, that started their run that were looking great. And I was potentially looking for those ones, whether moves in the pre-market or market hours for the next trading day. But then they ended up, just kind of prematurely ejaculating in that pre-market, and it was just kind of over before any of the fun could really be had. So kind of protecting myself in that sense, if it was going to happen in this pre-market, which I thought was going to. I was very highly convicted that we might get a move here. I was having orders in, kind of scaling out 2.3, 2.6 at minimum, that I was thinking this thing could have run to in today's pre-market, but it actually got halted. We were looking at, I think it was a news halt for their the initial news on that first day was a investor conference call to discuss, let's see here, positive business news that came out, positive business development. So that came out, that was going to happen at 10:30, and then 10:46, I think that they were done, then resumed. So I was able to see that, and it was just pretty much, this was an exciting experience to be part of. When I pulled up the chart this morning, it was interesting to see that I pulled it up on Robinhood on my phone for some reason, and Robinhood had a little banner on the top that said, GNUS has stopped trading on some brokers, but not on Robinhood. So I was like, that's weird. It's curious. But then, interesting to see that why, if Robinhood was able to trade it, that would have been interesting to try and test that thesis if I could buy shares through Robinhood. But why Thinkorswim would halt that, but not Robinhood. Whatever, that's besides the point. But anyway, we opened again. I saw the price above my entry and said, sweet, I'll take off half right here. Could just go crazy, volatile, whatever. It's a pretty high distance away already from my entry, so I got a little bit of room if it wants to just go bonkers crazy for whatever reason it's up after this halt. Of course, everybody knows it's already positive business news. That was the reason for the first day run up. So just an interesting experience to be a part of. Certainly don't want to be a part of these in the future, of having these things halt and then open on bad news, or bad news happens during that halt. That's the reason for the halt. And then it just absolutely tanks, and just being so handcuffed to that waterfall downslide on those ones, but was able to look out on this one, and still especially keeping wise and keeping smart by not going even further bigger position size. It was $100, I think, was kind of that happy little medium to say, I think it could go pretty nicely here. And, if we didn't have this halt, if there wasn't this little indecision or just stop trading from certain brokers, could have been a nice day today and could have had far more run up than it did have. So maybe this was a little bit of a buzzkill that happened, which is unfortunate. But again, overall, great experience to be a part of that nonetheless. KAVL, the big trader on the day, at least for me, swinging $1,000 position size. I threw it on this one for that dip and rip. Big pre-market spike. This one, not the greatest information that I found here through my scan software. I think it reportedly has an 11 million float, but it doesn't really show anything hard here on scans. But nice run up today off of news catalyst at 813. FDA enters administrative stay at BD Vapors marketing denial order for its flavored NDS. Whatever the heck that means. We get a nice perk. I mean, this is a morning dump pattern through and through. Of you get the entry sign signal here at crack of VWAP, the failure to maintain that. It's getting into a little bit of a wedge here. It's not the most pure and beautiful concentrated green spike that I would be a fan of, and it was throwing huge dollar volume and volume in general as well at the end of the day here, $243 million volume. But perfect morning dump pattern. Get your sign here. Can easily get an entry anywhere just under 3.2 here. Blade to the downside. Can't get all the way to potential 10%. Maybe you're able to slice some of that to get a 10% trading block here within pre-market and be hands clean, be out of this one by that time. But this one I was just looking at more of a dip and rip for some reason. It's just, we still get that failure. I think this was a little fake out. This wasn't actually a really attempt to go back to VWAP, but just an abysmal attempt to try and reclaim VWAP within that first minute of market open. Tanks off of there, which at this point I'm still in the mindset of, okay, sweet, come on down. You're the next contestant on the dip and rip pattern. It's holding this 2-4 level pretty nicely. Still very early, still with all of these, I'm saying, hey, give it more time. Don't try to rush in. Don't try to be the hero and predict a quick and crazy move. If it does that, then it's going to have more legs to come in within the next few minutes after that. So that dip and rip style of trade is now over. If it reclaims, after this 2 green minute candle bounce and starts to perk immediately back to VWAP, there's going to be more play in this than just that pattern. So I don't have to try and chase it and think, oh, that's my only opportunity on the day. No, if it does that, then I think there's far more play in this one, volatility opportunity, than just that one. So it's not really a need to try and chase at that point. So if it's going to do the dip and rip, just let it work out, let it play. Kind of another A rating in my execution on this one was this first entry. It was only 100 shares with my first entry here, but a very nice, of course I'm trading this one on the tick chart as well too, to see the more volume consolidation. But in my book, a very nice entry that I normally would have not taken. That's why I took a bit of a smaller position size with that first entry to say, okay, we're kind of holding here. We're holding here. I think this could be another kind of fake out bottom that's just barely tapping below low a day, trying to fake out some of those longs like me that were trying to chase it a little bit too early for a dip and rip pattern to develop. But very nice to slap that for how many times I've played these over and over again to recognize being able to not diddle in the middle of this little range and consolidation between 2.4 and 2.6, but to be on the extremes. And, kind of completely went away from that with my second 2 entries here, as I was thinking I was buying into the potential break to the upside of that 2.6 range that would have catapulted us a little bit closer, hopefully to VWAP and then explosion, whatever it wants to do beyond that. But just learning lessons and kind of proud of myself, patting myself on the back for that first entry to say, hey, this could be another going forward if dip and rip patterns start to work out better again in the future, which in essence, as I look back on this one, this wasn't really the greatest dip and rip opportunity. And I mentioned, and I'm going all over the place, but I knew that from the start too, even from the morning bell, because of how far it broke down below VWAP already. Like, this is the morning dump pattern. As I recognize it now, that's what I look for, is that failure to maintain VWAP, the hard crack under with a little bit of volume, but the attempt again to try and reclaim VWAP, but just no support coming in. This one also had some 424B5s, 8Ks from start of this month, end of September, but nowhere near the amount of dollar volume, just like $8 million here, $8 million here. Nothing crazy whatsoever that would have made me think that there's huge overhead holding this thing down. Today's dollar volume would have absolutely abominable. Is that a word? That would have totally just, it was really meaningless in my book for the volume that was pushing today as well too, which is kind of goes into the fact why I didn't really look at it as a morning dump opportunity. But yeah, so with the second entries, Then it was starting to scale in, thinking, okay, so we kind of picked the perfect bottom, got the stop out. We we attempt to put in a little bit of a higher low here that it looks like for maybe shorts who are thinking, okay, this thing could pull off even more, who are getting more short here, but now it's pressing on that high once again. So starting to scale in there. The second entry was another 100, and then I switched my orders to 200, my order entry window to 200, in order to protect myself if this thing just wanted to long trap, completely die off, and have my finger ready on the button to exit out of these two position sizes. But then as it was developing a little bit more, I thought, okay, I could scale in a little bit more to a 300 share position size. In my mind, though, too, I was really ready to take a 400 share position all the way. But then as I mistakenly pushed this button again, to thinking we were going to shoot through that 2.6 very rapidly, then it immediately kind of pushed me up to that 400 share position size at a little bit higher of an average than I was ready for. So it was like, oh, shoot. Okay, well, we're in this now. But then unfortunately, pretty much right after that, we get a bounce reject off of 2.6, pulls back more, tries to test this low a day, bounces off that. So I thought, okay, we could have a little bit of hope here, but this thing was drawn out so long, and we're definitely out of the market environment, even though we are heating up in the market a little bit. In that 2020 market, as the veterans would definitely say, of in past years, of course I have zero amount of concept of what it looked like, but in past years, consolidation or drawing out of patterns over time was a total bearish signal. Whereas getting into that 2020 market, consolidation and holding around key levels in a range was a totally bullish signal. So it's still the same way. I mean, this is a little bit of a different pattern because it is a big pre-market percentage mover. It's not the same as necessarily maybe a breakout style of trade or something similar along those lines. But this one certainly, for how much time it had to potentially to attract in more shorts, to squeeze more longs to the upside, just was not there. And there was plenty of overhead wherever that was coming from to continue to push this thing down, and I knew the risk that I was taking. I knew it was going to be a lot of slippage for me if I was going to try to risk this low. And of course, I had to put a stop in. I think I've mentioned in the past few daily trading recaps that I was going to try to get away from putting stops in, just because I felt even if I do put a stop in, I'm getting filled at the bottom of those moves anyway. It's not like my orders are at the top of the list to get filled. So it's like, what's really the need for those stops in the first place? But this one, of course, I put a stop in because of just how fast it was going. And of course, I see these 4 red candles print and this start to chug around before I even get filled, and my stop order is still in. So again, kind of just another example that stop orders, famous last words, it's hard to say that I want to get rid of them completely, but another case where it really didn't save me anything. I probably could have got a little bit of a better fill if I just waited for that move, see the 1-2 seconds later to get the little pop once again up from the bottom dip, sell the bid, try to hit the bid there at that point. I just take my loss from there. Maybe it saves me a few cents, maybe it doesn't save me any cents, but it's better than certainly getting filled at the bottom of these moves every single time. So yeah, $90 loss on that one. I knew the position size I was taking. I knew the risks. I could just feel it every single time as we were developing after that second entry, going back into this price action again of, okay, we're holding here and just in this whole time frame slot going, man, we're back to my entry around at 252 average entry price. You could kind of get out for break even. This is not looking good. We're already a little bit past that 9:45 time frame. That's ideal that we want to look for this pattern, but it's just not developing. And especially all the amount of time it had to do this beforehand was just not comforting as well. So I knew the signs. I recognized the signs were there. I had the opportunity and the thought to say, okay, get out here. I don't think the trade is probable. Could I be able to live with myself if this did end up going, just skyrocketing, doing exactly what I thought it was going to do, and I cut it early? I don't really know. But certainly would have been a lot better taking a $0 loss than a $90 loss on that one today. But it's all learning lessons. That's part of trading. It's part of continuing to understand who I am as a trader and just how these patterns work out, how the market environment affects all these different types of things. But that was it. So not really much that I wanted to go in too hard today. Just got some other work projects going on, but PHUN I wanted to keep an eye on, and DWAC kind of as sympathy. Still interested to see if I can type it correctly. interested to see if DWAC is still kind of the leader with PHUN. If it's gonna, we get this little bit of a bounce first green day today. And also to mention as well too, just for my reference and data tracking, as of right now, apparently I'm showing we're now in like the $12,000 average size per trade today. Dollar volume today, just under $3 billion volume and 600. Oh, this may be a little bit different. I'm gonna do the calculation quick. Okay, very interesting point that I just realized through my scans of the different data it's showing me on the montage versus the watch list scanner. That I thought the watch list scanner was actually up to date, real time, and the montage stuff, whatever. So it might be actually we're just under 5K average per trade on this one. I thought that was going to be a great point of reference and continue going off of that little indicator. But we'll see what it just wants to do. So just keeping an eye on DWAC and PHUN, I think mainly is one of my focus for interests of end to the close here. It's not looking the greatest. So we might get another little rollover, but if it's wants to start basing, we could get a potential another pop to, which I think would be a longer little bit of a swing for me style of trade. See if we can get anywhere close to maybe a $7 target area if it wants to go that hard or far. I could see it happening, but nothing hard, no actual trades for me on it as of right now. That is all I had. I thank you guys for watching. Nice and sweet and short, keeping it real, that is all I had. We're ending the video now. I thank you guys for watching. We will catch you guys on the next one.